20th century writer and conservationist Joseph Woodcrutch said this of technology. Technology made large populations possible. Large populations now make technology indispensable. And if you think about it, he's right. When mankind was young, we huddled together in small family groups, foraging for food, living close to water, and taking shelter in whatever the local geography could provide. The technology of simple tools allowed us to build simple structures and farm land or pull sustenance from the sea. Continued development of technology allowed us to specialize. Some could focus their efforts and attentions on growing food, others on building shelter. Technology allowed us to develop commerce, to explore distant lands, and to communicate across nationalities and generations. Modern technology has magnified these simple early triumphs, and we're no longer solitary groups toiling for survival, but massive cities now entirely dependent on technology to keep us fed, clothed, sheltered, mobile, educated, and entertained. Technology was the beacon of light that escorted us from the dark ages through the Industrial Revolution. It has connected us and enlightened us, made us global in our perspective, and allowed us to see and understand the impact that we have on each other. It has made it possible for us to conquer the sky and the sea and beyond. It has made us healthier and helped us live longer. No longer are we simply foraging for food, but we can understand how what we put in our bodies helps or hurts us. Injury and illness no longer means certain death. And even our most vulnerable have a chance at life that in ages past would have been an inconceivable possibility. But as Joseph Crutch reminds us, while technology has allowed us to flourish as a species, it has also now made us entirely reliant upon it. Without technology, the single farmer now responsible for growing enough food to feed hundreds would be unable to sow and harvest his crops. Without technology, the student now responsible for the medical breakthrough needed to save hundreds of lives wouldn't be able to do the research and testing needed. Without technology, even something as simple as staying in touch with family would become infinitely harder. Technology has become the fiber that we have built our lives upon and is the thread that connects us across industry and disciplines. Technology serves as not only a bridge to each other, but as a bridge to our past, and it has had a profound impact on the arts. Without technology, we would not have the tragedies of Sophocles, or the printed works of Shakespeare, or Tolstoy. Without technology, we could never have imagined stories about the Illuminati, or dinosaurs, or wizards brought to life in such fantastic ways. In fact, without technology, the age-long tradition of storytelling would be a mere shadow of what it is today. But lucky for us, not only does technology do all of the amazing things I've just mentioned, but it has, in many ways, revived the art of storytelling. Storytelling has been a part of mankind from our very origin. It is easy to imagine the earliest people gathered around the warmth and safety of an open fire, listening to the stories that conveyed our collective knowledge and gave voice to our triumphs and losses. Stories entertained and educated us. From the spoken word and cave paintings of primitive peoples to the first written words of ancient civilizations, stories have continued to evolve. Beautiful illuminated manuscripts were prized possessions of the Middle Ages. The printing press, invented at the end of the 15th century, launched the age of books. And we, as members of the modern world, have been witness to the latest evolution of storytelling, the ebook. The first digital books were created by Project Gutenberg in 1971. According to the Project Gutenberg website, the project's mission was to give access to free works of literature to anyone with an internet connection. At first, ebooks were only used by universities and researchers, but with the advent of the internet, the virtual and digital library grew. By the 1990s, the internet had completely taken the world by storm, and a few pioneering book publishers went digital. In 1995, Amazon launched the first online bookstore. Soon after, e-readers from Sony, Amazon, and Barnes & Noble made ebooks easy and quick to access. E-readers saw an incredibly quick adoption rate in U.S. markets, and it wasn't long before a new technological trend was born to keep up with the growing demand for ebooks. You might say modern technology in the form of ebooks and e-readers have made it easier for us to sate our everlasting human curiosity and have helped us continue our love of storytelling. But what about the storytellers? As you might expect, writers and storytellers have also embraced technology, and the modern age brings countless reasons for writers to rejoice. Technology like laptops, word processors, voice recognition software, and story writing software allow writers to create anywhere, anytime, and save versions of their works in digital formats. Editing is faster and easier. Need to look up a word, a quick Google search, or even a spoken query into the smartphone in your pocket, and a writer has everything they need without the bulky weight of a dictionary or thesaurus. Opportunities for publication abound, both digital and print. Those opportunities, discovered through global connections, means a writer's work isn't limited to the audience within their small personal reach, but instead has the ability to travel the world. Whether a writer's intent is to champion a social, humanitarian, or environmental cause, or whether it's to spark imagination with a great work of fiction, the audience is now limited only by the author's ability to connect with them online. Access to research materials is virtually limitless, and what we read and write is now no longer bound by things like geography, age, or topic. Ebooks don't exactly grow on trees, so the world of e-publishing has also evolved. For the first time, would-be authors could self-publish and circumvent the traditional agent-publisher route and take their work directly to the public at a cost significantly lower than vanity publishing, the only other option offered to authors in the past. According to Charles Hardwick in his article, The 10 Best-Selling Self-Published Authors, new voices and genres are changing the face of literature. Aspiring authors from all backgrounds can now share their stories with the world. But even in a world of seemingly endless opportunities for would-be authors, all that glitters is often not gold, and there has been a downside to the massive rise in self-publishing. With the barrier to market being pretty much non-existent, books of variable and often extremely low quality are being e-published and made available for sale, despite not being ready for mass consumption. This mass influx of new titles often causes conflict for the consumer and creates new challenges for authors to overcome. In S.J. Dubner's Freakonomics article, Is the Paradox of Choice Not So Paradoxical? He notes how having too many choices actually overwhelms consumers. The massive number of new books being published not only makes it harder for consumers to choose and identify favorite authors, but it's made it almost impossible for new authors to be discovered, no matter how good their writing might be. And like any other market where supply far exceeds demand, price is driven way down. The price of e-published books has dropped so dramatically that even if a writer finds some small success with e-publishing, they must sell an exorbitant amount of books in order to make a decent living. Plagiarism has always been a literary crime, but with so many books on the market, and with the ease in which digital content can be duplicated, there's been an uptick in the number of unscrupulous writers stealing the works of others and passing it off as their own. Readers can become jaded by bad purchasing experiences and potentially miss out on new and exciting voices in literature. The lack of barriers to publication mean anyone, regardless of skill or ability, can publish, producing large amounts of content that those readers must filter through and weigh for risk. With so many choices and so many authors vying for attention, readers have developed a habit of buying cheap books, or they simply buy whatever Amazon recommends. For authors, competition is high, and it's no longer just a matter of writing a good story. The perception of low quality in the e-publishing world has made it difficult for even the best writer to stand out in a never-ending sea of books in every possible genre. Independent authors cannot charge anywhere near the same pricing for their work as books sold by traditional publishers, despite the cost of everything from editing, cover design, and marketing now falling solely on their shoulders. With all of the factors working against self-publishing, is it a doomed industry? Will poorly produced books continue to be a blemish on the future face of literature? If things continue as they are, then yes. In order to change public perception and change the way we as a society think about self-publishing, we must create some barriers to market and set minimum standards for publication. And the value of books, which determines the price we are willing to pay for them, must be reestablished. Self-publishing can be the literary hero authors and readers need it to be, but it won't be easy. Fixing problems in an industry that finds its success in the subjective evaluation of consumers is a tricky thing. Self-publishing can work, and it can enrich modern literature with the help of authors, readers, and the companies that manage massive e-publishing platforms like Amazon and Smashwords. Authors must continue to do what they're already doing. The self-publishing community is slowly but surely establishing itself and has begun to educate and police quality control issues on its own. This trend must continue. Would-be authors, like any professional, need to learn their craft and stop assuming that if they can write a sentence, then they can write a sellable book. Readers must use the power of the review to support well-written books and identify poorly written ones in an honest and constructive manner. With more and more online shoppers relying on reviews and large online book retailers creating popularity algorithms based on those reviews, it's important to make sure that we as consumers use the power of the review to shape the market we want to shop in. We must, as a society, break away from expecting the highest quality possible for rock-bottom pricing. Readers must remember the value of a good book. We have no issue spending $10 or more for a 90-minute movie or $5 for a cup of coffee. As readers, we must change our mind about the price we are willing to pay for books. E-publishing platforms like Amazon and Smashwords must establish baseline guidelines and standards for publication. Technology exists to scan books for spelling and grammatical errors. These should be incorporated into the publishing process. Too many mistakes and the book should not be allowed to be made available for sale and sent back to the author for editing. Another way to dissuade the scammers and folks who would sell garbage and dilute the quality of the literary pool is to charge a small publication fee. This will help to squelch the idea that publishing a good book is free and requires no special skills other than the ability to upload a PDF. In his article Behind the Scam, What Does It Take to Be a Best-Selling Author?, B. Underwood shares how he self-published a book that was nothing more than a photo of his foot. After selling 3 copies, 2 of which he bought himself, his book was labeled as a bestseller in its respective genre. This is exactly the kind of thing we must prevent. To do that, we must encourage specialized, smaller publishing platforms rather than allow massive online retailers to monopolize the market. Smaller platforms can help source and vet quality books. With these changes, self-publishing can and will change the face of modern literature. We will get to hear the stories of people around the world, stories that are limited only by our imagination, and a few necessary standards that will assure we continue to love stories, whether we're sitting around an open fire or swiping the pages of our e-reader.